Hey there, welcome to my channel. My name is Linda. I've got some fun crafts for you today. So what are we waiting for? Let's get started. Today we'll be working on Rustic Farmhouse pumpkin crafts. So let's get started with project number 1. For this project, we're going to be using this free printable. I'll have a link to my blog down in the description box. This one you'll cut out on the dash lines. This one and these two both go with the same stem, okay? So, and I'll show you which ones goes with which. So for one of the pumpkins, I'm going to use these fabrics and some embroidery floss, although I do change the one embroidery floss, and some carbon paper with this particular pumpkin. For this next one, I'll be using these two fabrics. Now, all of my fabrics came various places like Etsy, Jubilee Fabrics. This felt came from Hobby Lobby, some from the plaids from Walmart. And we'll use these two pieces of the pumpkin along with the stem down below on this particular one. And this last one are these two fabrics. And the pumpkin we'll be using is this one at the top, down with, again, the stem at the bottom. Now, I'm going to choose to use some batting. That is optional. You can buy it in a bag or by the yard at Walmart, but like I said, optional. For all my pillows, I'm going to be using two sizes. The base, the main pillow part is 6.5 inches square, and then the secondary part of the pillow is 5 inches square, and then we're going to build up with the pumpkin designs on top of that 5-inch square. So this first one I've cut off camera, ready to go. Those are 6.5 inches square. Then I've cut my next piece of fabric with a piece of batting, both at 5 inches squared. Now, of course, if you're a gluer, you can go ahead, whether or not use batting, and glue those top pieces to your top piece of your main pillow fabric. Of course, I have sewed mine off camera. Here's what it looks like. I did like a double stitch around it just to make it fun, and I wasn't trying to be neat about it. All right, so for this pumpkin, again, we're going to be using the bottom pieces of the pattern. If you look in the upper left, it's highlighted in a red box. So I've cut some batting for the main pumpkin. And then the stem, just because it was already, I had it folded with batting in it. I cut two pieces of fabric and a piece of batting. You really only need one piece of fabric, but it was just, I picked up the fabric and I'm like, hey, there's already a piece of batting folded in it. So I just cut it out that way. And then I've got the felt cut out of the main pumpkin and the little oval that comes on top. And I'm using some sandpaper. It really doesn't make a whole big difference, but I was trying to like fluff out the felt a little more. And then of course I've got a piece of batting for that top circular piece. So again, if you're a gluer, you can just glue your whole pumpkin together. All right, I'm going to take it and sew it in pieces. I'm going to sew the stem down first here, and I'll show a little bit of that sewing. So you can see that, of course. And I don't mind that my batting moves and comes out around the fabric a little bit. I just think it gives it that rustic look. And then I'm sewing the next layer of the pumpkin with the batting underneath it, sewing all the way around it, coming in about a 1/2 inch in, okay? But you could glue it. You could do hand sewing and make cute little stitches. I try to kind of do a little bit of everything on each of the pillows. If that's understandable, I'll show you when we get there. And then lastly, of course, I'm sewing on that top little oval piece with the batting as well. Now, this isn't my favorite pumpkin. The orange felt looks cute, but it's a little bit, it kind of, I mean, it matches with that bottom fabric, the plaid, but I'm not sure. Anyway, and my pumpkin ended up a little crooked when I sewed it, but that's okay. It's Rustic and Farmhouse. So now let's put our main pillow together. If you're a gluer, you're going to go around 3 sides. And then when you get down around the 4th side, go about 3/4 of the way and leave about a little opening 3 fingers wide, or you can sew around it. I've sewed around it off camera. With your opening, go ahead and stuff that as full as you want to stuff it. And then once you've got it stuffed, you can glue it closed, or you can sew it closed, and that pillow's done. For the next pumpkin, I've got my 2 pieces of fabric cut, 6.5 inches, and we're going to do, you see in the upper left, that left pumpkin and the stem. Now for the middle, the 5-inch pieces, I actually cut 2 pieces of fabric here and then the piece of batting because I wanted it a little bit thicker. You know, you can do how you want to do it. If you're a gluer, you can glue those 2 pieces on top. I'm going to sew around it, and here that is sewn around it. Just sewed it off camera, again, like a double stitch around it. Here's my stem again, just like the last one, and I've got batting and 2 pieces of that kind of sweater material. I got that off Etsy. So for the stem, I'm going to just kind of glue this on. So if you're a gluer, get it all glued on. And I'm just kind of spot gluing it because we're going to do a little bit of cute hand sewing around it. If you don't want to do any sewing, make sure you glue it better, okay? But I thought I'd spot glue it. It helps hold it in place. Perfect. And then what I've got here is some crochet string. And then, of course, you want to do like a doll needle or embroidery needle or something like that. It's got a large eye opening to get the crochet string through. I'm just going to tie a knot in one end here. And on the stem, I'm going to, go ahead and pin this back first so I can get to my stem. I'm going to do a different stitch on the stem than around the pumpkin, and you could do the same stitch around all of it. Doesn't matter. I'm just going to do like a normal little straight stitch, on the inner part of the stem here all the way around, just like that. And then when it's done, of course, I'll unpin my pumpkin here, and we're going to stitch from the inside of the pumpkin to the outside of the pumpkin, just to give it a little personality. All right. And of course, we are doing this only on the top layer of that pillow fabric, that 6.5-inch square. We're not doing it through both pieces, just the top layer, right? Just like this all the way around. I'll just do a few stitches here, and then I'll finish the rest off camera, giving you a look-see at what it looks like. It's really easy. And again, you don't have to do any of this. I just wanted to give it a little bit of something, something. And here's what that looks like all the way complete. And it kind of just brightens up the orange a little bit. And then on the back, I'm just going to run it through one of the stitches, knot it off, cut off the excess, and then we're going to attach it to that back piece of fabric. It looks really cute. I love that kind of sweater material. Just like that. And again, if you're a gluer, 3 3/4 around, leave it open to stuff, and then glue it closed. Or if you're a sewer here, of course, I've sewed it 3/4, 3 3/4 all the way around. Now I'm stuffing it, and then I will sew it closed, and we'll set that aside because that one will be done. Now on this last little pillow, if you look in the upper left, we're going to mess with that pumpkin in the right. Again, just cut it out around the dash lines. You'll see it laying over to the right on my right-hand side. I've got my 2 bottom pieces of my main pillow fabric cut, and then I've got a piece of batting and my top piece of fabric cut, and I'm using a piece of carbon paper that I cut out. All right, and then what I'm using, this is just a little stylus. You can get these at Dollar Tree. You can use whatever you want, and I'm going to trace around that pumpkin, of course, using that carbon paper onto that top fabric. I've chosen a light colored fabric so that we can see the pattern really well, and it will make our pumpkin pop when we do the embroidery floss, although, like I said, I changed the embroidery floss, but it's still the same process. All right, here it's done. You can see I've got my pattern on there. Now, it would be helpful if you've got a little mini ring here, these little embroidery rings. You can get these at Walmart, the small, just a couple of dollars. All right, to make your fabric tight if you've not really done embroidery stitching before, and this is the easiest of embroidery stitching, but it really helps. So I was going to use this kind of a rustic orange embroidery floss. Again, I'm just putting it through like they have embroidery needles or doll needle or upholstery needle, anything like that. It's got a large eye opening, nice long string, and tying a knot in one end. And we're just going to make a straight stitch all the way up, just like this, okay? And we're going to start at the bottom. And I decided the orange was just too bright orange, so I end up switching to that kind of white crochet thread that we used on the pumpkin a little bit ago that we did the stitches with. But it's the same process here. You just straight stitch across, pulling it, come from the back to the front and go from one side to the other, making a straight stitch from your one side of your pattern to the other side of the pattern. You're just staying in the middle lane of that pumpkin there. You're not doing the outer edges of the pumpkin. We're staying in that middle oval shape, okay? Just like this, back and forth, and it takes, well, for me, it took a couple of hours. I'll do that all the way up. Now, here's where you can see I switched threads. I liked it better. It just showed up better. And then I started doing the same thing over to the right side of the pumpkin. Now we're doing that right side little segment there. Same thing. Following the stitches straight across and following the curve of the pumpkin, going from one edge to the other. And I've got a little space in between. I've done the right middle, the right side, and the left side, and you can see that little spacing around that oval. That's okay. We're going to fix that. And now I am on the brown. I'm using brown embroidery floss on the stem, and I'm doing the same thing. I didn't show you the whole thing. I know I skipped quite ahead, but basically you can kind of see what I'm doing. It's just a back and forth, side to side motion following your pattern, but make sure you do the segments of the pumpkin separately as you see here, and then do the stem. All right, and then I'm going to use the same color brown to go around. You see I've gone around the center of that oval pumpkin and up around the stem with a straight stitch. All right, and I'm going to start here on the bottom, going to the right-hand side. I just do a little stitch, like a 1/2 inch. And as I come from the back to the front again, I'm just going to go into that stitch a little bit. I'm going to overlap it. You can see there's just a tiny little bit out the end there, and I'm going to do another stitch. And when I come back through, I'm going to come into that stitch, overlap it, and do another stitch. And so I'm just doing that all the way around so it fills in our spaces and it really outlines our pumpkin. And when I'm done, this is what it looks like. It looks funny, but when we get all the little decoration and stuff on our pillows, it'll look cute. So my top, again, I have 2 pieces of batting. If you're a gluer, go ahead and glue that down, that whole top piece down. I'm going to sew it down, right? And then you can go ahead and glue or sew your pillow together just like we did the last ones. Stuff it and glue or sew it closed. And when I sewed that top portion down, I did the double stitch around it just like I did on the other 3 pillows. So we're skipping ahead because I'm like, we already discussed it twice. You know what I'm doing. It's the same procedure all the way through. We just have a different design. Now, of course, I'm stuffing it and then I will sew it closed. If you're a gluer, you're going to glue everything together, stuff it, and glue it closed. All right? Okay, now here's my 3 pillows and a Boston tail. I've got some little thin twine here I've tied into a bow. I've added a rusty safety pin and a bell. All right, and then I'm going to just glue this little ensemble, one on each of the pumpkins. Now, I didn't pin this ensemble through the pillow because these safety pins must be the little flimsy, thin Dollar Tree safety pins. I had a hard time just getting it through the twine. I bent a few of them up. They are so thin. So I am gluing them on. Once these are glued on, that makes this project complete. Here's a little sneaky peek. We'll take a look at the final results at the end of the video. Let's move on to project number 2. For this project, we're making some cute farmhouse pumpkin coasters. Link to my blog again. We'll have this free pattern. It's got the pumpkin, the leaf, and the stem on it. You can glue this if you're a gluer, but do not use hot glue because these are coasters, right? We're going to set our hot mug and coffee on them. And so you want a nice fabric glue. I would suggest the fabric glue like I normally use. Beacon Fabric glue would work great. You can use batting, or I had this quilted fabric from Joann's. I decided to use this because I like the color a little bit more, so I'm using that for my center and make it a little bit more fluffy but not too fluffy. So I cut one out for the main pumpkin with 2 pieces of fabric, and then I've got my 2 leaves in fabric and another of that quilted for that, and then of course my stem fabric and a piece for that. So Beacon Fabric glue is going to work wonderful for this. I've had pants with patches on that I've run through the dryer, hot heat dryer for years, and those patches still hold. Beacon Fabric glue, if you're a gluer and gluing this together, will hold up to the heat of your mug, okay? So what you're going to do is sandwich your batting or quilted fabric or whatever in between each of your 2 pieces of fabric, leaving the edges all hang out. So do that in between all your pieces, just like this. Now, once you've sewn or glued your stem together, do that first. You could just lay it in like I'm doing here, but it's going to just add a little bit of a bump. So what I'm going to do before I sew or put this in is I'm going to mark around the bottom part of the stem, and I'm going to cut that out of the material I'm using in the center of the 2 pieces of fabric, and that way I can lay that stem in there and give us a nice flat look across the top, okay? Now, of course, I'm going to sew my stem first and then set it inside and finish on with the pumpkin. Now, if you want to do some hand stitching, again, some crochet thread here. This is like a size 10 crochet thread. It's really thin. You could elect to do that. I am going to use this later to kind of work some segments on the pumpkin, but you could stitch around your stem and then put this together and stitch around the outside. Like I said, I'm going to do some here. You could also stitch on the leaf if you wanted to do that. Make your little veins in your leaf, however you want to do it. But I'm going to come in and sew all my pieces together, of course, as I usually do. Now, if you're an experienced sewer and you don't want all your edges and stuff hanging out, you don't want it to look as rustic as it is, you can do, right sides together and make it pretty, and then flip it right side out, sew it on the wrong side, flip it right side out, that kind of thing. Do how you want to do it, but I find it easier, quicker, and it looks just as cute to leave the edges all hanging out. So I sewed the leaf, I sewed the stem, and then I put the stem inside the pumpkin in that little area we cut out in that center quilted piece of fabric. And now I'm sewing around the pumpkin, and of course I'll sew right up over the stem to make sure that that is sewn into that ensemble, of course. And this fabric, this plaid fabric, I got at Jubilee Fabrics. All right, this is what that looks like. Now you can see I sewed it with a thread that you don't really see a whole lot. I'm like, that's not good enough. So I went back in with this darker brown thread, and now it shines up a little more. Look at the left versus the right. So I'm going to do that on all my pumpkins, even though I've already sewed them. I don't care if there's double stitching in 2 different colors. I just think that adds to the look. So now I'm bringing in my crochet thread. Off camera, I did veins with the crochet thread on the leaf to give it some fun, and I didn't like how it looked, so I pulled all of that crochet thread out, and I'm going to leave my leaf just plain. But you can do how you want to do it. But I am going to use crochet thread to make our segments on our pumpkin. Now, this is just some like a tracing, like a chalk. I can't remember if I got it on eBay or Walmart. Walmart has it too, but it's nice because it's got, an eraser on one end, and I'm just going to use it to mark. It's like a marking chalk or pen. Mark on my fabric where I want to make my little stitches to make my segments, and then I can erase it when I'm done. So again, Walmart has it, and like I said, I think I got mine off eBay because I was already ordering something else, so I just ordered it. And I'm going to start from the front to the back, and I don't care that my knot is there because that's going to get hidden by our leaf. And I'm just going to make some little straight stitches all the way down. In fact, I'm just going to pleat a few stitches at a time onto this kind of long upholstery needle and pull it all the way through. And I'm just going to go down and pleat, but I'm going to show you a couple of little tricks to kind of help hide our thread on the back side because we want it to look nice on the back side. But you can see what the stitchers are doing. I don't care if some of the stitches get a little wonky or anything like that. Like I always say, it just adds to the look. So once I get down to the bottom, I'm going to pull that last stitch. You can see there what it looks like again, to the back side. One more stitch here to the back side. And then we're going to look up here on the back. Now, we want to go from there across, and we don't want to see our thread like this. We want to hide it, okay? I'll bring this up a little bit closer. So what I'm doing is just going right through underneath. You can see on the front side, you don't see that needle. I'm staying underneath between the fabric and that layer of fabric on the back side, and I'm just making one long stitch from one side to the other. And you just, when you pull it through, just make sure you're not going through the front, okay, just like that. And then come back through and start making some more stitches on your next segment here. And you can make as many segments as you want, but the way I made the pattern, really, you're only going to have 3 segments. So, haha. Finish that up. I'll do a few more stitches here, and then I'm just going to bring it across the top here and, end where I started with that knot. Again, that's going to be hidden. I'm just going to pull right up underneath that knot there. Like I said, it's going to be hidden. All right. Now our leaf, we're going to kind of do the same thing we did on the back, and I'll bring it up closer, but I'm going to fold my leaf in half, figure out where I want it. I'm probably about a 1/2 inch from that left edge. Fold it in half and hold it there onto our pumpkin. All right. And I'm going to bring my needle right through the back of that fabric in between the batting and that fabric, okay? So you don't see it on the front here. See, we don't see it. We're just on the back side of that leaf there. We're going to pull it all the way through, one big long stitch, all right? And then we're going to come get it into position, hold your leaf back, and we're going to come right back through here into the fabric. We're going to stay on that top fabric. The top fabric, just like we did on the leaf. You're not coming through the back side. All right, stay on that top layer of fabric, one long stitch, pull it through. All right, nice and tight, and then you're going to do the same thing again. We're going to do this twice here. Making sure I don't come through the front, just staying on the back side of that leaf. Pull it all the way through, and then we're going to come finish it up. One more big stitch staying on the front of that pumpkin there underneath. And then we're just going to tie a little knot through one of the little stitches we made on the pumpkin there. Again, it's not going to get seen. Tie it off, a little knot here cut off the excess, and I'm going to add a little Beacon Fabri-Tac glue here just to glue that knot down. Again, Beacon Fabri-Tac glue will work fine. All right, and then I'm erasing my little lines. Love this little marking pen. If you're looking in store, any store, it's usually in the sewing section, and that makes this project complete. Now, I made this pumpkin extra long and cute so you could set like great big mugs on it and stuff. I've got 4 done here. Here's a sneaky peek. We'll take a look at the final results at the end of the video. Let's move on to our last project, number 3. For this project, all of our items came from Dollar Tree, and I only use 5 of these hoop frames from Dollar Tree. Okay, I have 6 out here, but I only use 5. I end up using 4 of these. So whatever you want, you can use anything. You can use wood slices or whatever. I use 1 of these coasters from Dollar Tree because I had one, and then I use 1 wood slice. Okay. So what we're going to do on our rings here, our little frames, I'm just taking some heavy duty scissors and I'm cutting them directly in half because it's just that really kind of MDF cheapy thin wood. They're easy to kind of cut in half. All right, 2 equal halves. So you have 10 halves. All right. And then I'm just going to, sand it off and make it a little bit smooth here. While I'm sanding, I'm going to explain what we're going to do is we're going to kind of sandwich our rings top and bottom with the 4 wood circles and then like the coaster or wood slice in between. So you have 2 circles and a wood slice. And when we go to sandwich it, we're going to be laying like this, so there would be this 2 circles, top and bottom, a wood slice in between. But there's a little space here. So I'm just going to sand kind of top and bottom at the end of our ring so that when we lay it there, it's going to be more flat against the wood. It'll be easier when you see what it looks like here in a minute, but see how it's more flat against the wood? So sand those edges top and bottom. Now, I start out with Beacon Quick Grip glue. I go ahead and glue the coaster onto the flat side of those bigger wood circles. We don't want to use the indented side. And when I'm just measuring it, I'm okay with quick grip glue here at the beginning. But as I use it on these, see how we're going to glue it up against the edge of the coaster and onto that bigger piece of wood. But the quick grip glue, honestly, it just wasn't working fast enough for me. But I start out with it, and then I end up having to take it apart and use wood glue. So I would just go with wood glue, learn from my mistakes. So I add glue on the end of the half circle and on the edge, and I glue it together like this. It's probably easier to watch than what I'm saying. And I make sure that I glue each ring like directly across from each other. It's just easier, and I clamp it. And I just start out by clamping a few at a time, okay? Because it makes it, again, like I said, a little bit easier to work with. And then I let that set for a little bit, especially when you're using wood glue. Let it set for about 10 minutes and then pick it up, clamp a few more, let it set about 10 minutes, pick it up, clamp the rest of them, okay? So you get a nice, good base and you're able to pick this up as a whole as you're working with it. But again, I would just go with wood glue start to finish. All right, now we're going to sandwich using the other circle. We don't want to use the indented side here because if you do, you've got that space right between the coaster now. You don't want that. So you want to make sure you use the flat side of this to sandwich it in between, okay? And then here I am switching to wood glue. You can see on my pieces, I actually did some nails in it. It kind of split the wood a little bit, but the wood glue, goes into the cracks and helps hold it all together. I had done that because, I started out with that beacon glue and all that stuff, and I was trying to get these things, I was just trying different ways to get it to work good together, and really just wood glue is your best option. So get your 2 pieces on, flat sides together, get it all clamped, sandwich those rings in between, and I'll show you here what it looks like from a side angle, and I let it set overnight. I wanted to make sure that thing is together, and this is what it looks like, and believe me, this will not come apart. And so now we're up to the top. I've done the same thing. I've wood glued the little rings onto the bigger slice and up against the wood slice, and I'm clamping them down. Again, I let this portion set overnight, and then the next day, here it is, all set, ready to go. No nails this time. It is together, I promise you. This is what it looks like from a side angle. You can see that. And then, again, we're just going to come in with that wood glue over the top, over the wood slice. I just used that coaster because I had it, but 4 bigger pieces of wood and 2 smaller pieces of wood so you can sandwich those, rings in between. up and against everything to help hold it all together. And I'm adding, as you can see, ample wood glue here. And then placing the other circle on top. And then again, I'm going to clamp it all together and I'm letting it set overnight. Okay? Once it's sat overnight, this thing is ready. It's complete. It's stable. It sets up. It does wonderful. And on the top, you can see I have a little circle drawn here. It's where I'm going to put my stem. And I had this little furniture piece that was actually on top of this spindle. I got it at a thrift store. And I'm going to wood glue this on and use it for my stem. Now, I was originally just going to kind of leave it all rustic in the color it is, but I decided to go ahead and paint the whole thing. But I'm going to leave this furniture piece not the color that it is. I'm going to sand it and make it lighter off camera. But the rest of it, I'm going to paint. And I didn't want to paint it by hand because I knew it would take forever. So I'm going to use this Kills chalk paint. It says it's a white, but it actually comes out cream like the cap. I hate Kills chalk paint. Sorry, but I do. It's thin and it takes a lot of coats, but I love the color that comes out of this can. And if it's going to save me a headache from having to paint it by hand, I will just curse it in my brain and I will use this color. Anyway, yeah, I do like it. It just comes out a nice creamy color, but it does, I mean, it took a couple of cans to, get this pumpkin done. But anyway, once it's done, I love it because my brain was like, I want my pumpkin just like this completely all cream color. And then we're going to do a little like flowers and candle in the middle, this vibrant orange. Here's what it looks like. You can see I just did a little light distressing along those sharp edges of the pumpkin rings. Okay, so now for the center, I'm using this from Dollar Tree. All right, I'm going to use a bunch of these like daisies from Dollar Tree and then these hydrangeas. I use a couple of those. I think I used 3 stems of the daisies, 2 stems of the hydrangeas, and then I only found 1 stem of these dahlias. So all the same color, but, to give it some, give it some different floral. And then this orange candle that's out right now. Yeah, this whole project, Dollar Tree. Even Dollar Tree has wood slices, right? So I'm going to take this ring and I'm going to cut it in half and then I'm going to shorten it. So I've got it in half now and then I'm going to shorten it. It ends up breaking a little bit and I kind of have to tape it because, there's not much substance to it since I cut it down a lot. But I didn't want it to really be much bigger than the plate on the bottom of the pumpkin. So once I get it cut down, then I trim all my flowers down really short and I just start covering this ring. I just wanted this rustic, beautiful orange color, with this white halo-y pumpkin around the outside. And this thing is huge, you guys. I mean, I'm talking, the width is about 16 inches wide, from like end ring to end ring, and then top to bottom, stem to bottom of the thing is about 16 inches tall. So this would make a really beautiful just centerpiece on your table. So, and of course you can do whatever colors you want with it. So I just keep continuing to fill up the little, foam ring, making sure I cover up all of the, green of that. I don't want any of that seen. And I just want this beautiful, old-timey looking orange flowered candle ring when I'm done with it. Once it's done, here is our pumpkin, of course, from this view. I'm just going to slide in this beautiful, full-looking floral orangey, candle ring. I'm going to put it inside here, of course. Just fits right in because our pumpkin's so huge. And then I'm going to add the orange candle right in the center, and that makes this beautiful project complete. So I hope you enjoyed all of our projects today. Every project had a pumpkin on it somehow, some way, somewhere. Even our gigantic centerpiece here, mostly made out of Dollar Tree supplies, I might add, except for the stem. Now, this gigantic pumpkin centerpiece cost about $20, but really, I don't think that's bad, because if you went to order it from a fine store online, it would be probably into the hundreds. So I think it's beautiful for a cost of $20. Anywho, leave me a comment down below and let me know which project you like best or which one you would like to make. Please give this video a thumbs up. It really helps my channel to grow. And if you walked in here for the first time, you're just checking things out, you're digging what you saw, make sure before you click off, you hit that subscribe button, because it's totally free. Doesn't cost you a thing to hit that button. That way you'll never miss another video from me. Now, before I go, I'm going to leave you with one final thought. Life is kind of like traveling a highway. Within marked zones, you get to speed up or you have to slow down. There are lots of off-ramps, on-ramps, byways, billboards, rest stops, construction zones, and you'll definitely see other people pass you by with their own travel plans. While driving, you'll probably play some tunes, something like this old song. Life is a highway. I want to drive it all night long. But in all reality, you can't drive it all night long, especially by yourself, because eventually you'll get tired. The caffeine won't work as good, and you'll need some rest to continue on. When this happens, don't be afraid to pull over and let God take the wheel while you nap to gain your strength. You are more than a conqueror with God helping you versus trying to drive all night long and cause an accident because you fell asleep. On this road trip of life, there may be a time you get to take the off-ramp for a quick, fun adventure, and then there may be a time you have to take the scenic route. The scenic route can be beautiful, but after a while, the points of interest get farther apart, and you realize the road has morphed into a long, dreaded desert where the road is straight for miles and miles. Do not fear, though, because Jesus has placed streams of living water in strategic places where you can stop any time to quench your thirst for the continued drive ahead. Also on this journey, you're more than likely to encounter a construction zone because there's usually work needing to be done on this seemingly never-ending road. Try not to travel too fast, however, because fines double in a construction zone if you're in too much of a hurry. It might be best to stop, wait, and allow God to send the pilot car to guide you through, even if it feels like the opposite side of the road is letting a lot more drivers through while your engine is idling. As you wait, remember, God loves you enough to move you forward at just the right speed in His perfect timing. God has the best travel itinerary for your life, and you must have faith that His driving directions will keep the enemy from tricking you into seeing a shortcut around the construction zone, which inevitably will only lead you down a dead-end road. You see, God knows when you need to travel a certain marked highway, when you need to rest, when to take a scenic route, or when to stop for construction to avoid the enemy's snare. He has plans for all your travels so that you arrive safely to your destination. Trust in God's assessment of where His roadmap will lead you. He has all things under control. And don't be afraid to let God take the wheel whenever you need Him to, so that with God, your life will be driven in victory. I thank you for sharing your time with me, and I'll talk with you again soon. Bye.